Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss an important current affairs that is about Emission Gap Report 2021. Emission Gap Report 2021. Emission Gap Report is released by UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, and this is the 12th edition. Here in this report, they discuss about emissions, how much of the emissions has, what are the steps we can take to reduce the temperature, global warming, and what are the things which are still affecting the global warming, and how much of percent of the methane emission is occurring, and how much of the carbon emissions and greenhouse gases are emitting, and what can be done are given usually in this report. Let us discuss further. In this report, they have said that there is a drop of 5.4% in 2020, the global carbon dioxide emission. Because of the COVID, the carbon emission was reduced, but now it is again rising. So it is a little concern because in COVID there was a lockdown, and so a lot of vehicles did not move. Most of the time, only few vehicles were moving, that too in a specific period. So due to that, the carbon emission was reduced. There was a drop in the carbon emission in the global level. So, but after the COVID lockdown has been released, the greenhouse gases have increased, the concentration has increased, and the carbon dioxide has also increased. Now, what are the mitigation process they have set? For 2030, up to 2030, they have come up with an idea to reduce the global warming temperature. They have come up with a new pledge, that is G20 members. They are on the track to achieve their previous NDC, while 7 are off track. That means the Paris climate change, where they determined to reduce the temperature up to 1.5 degrees Celsius, only few countries in G20 are able to maintain, and 7 of the countries are not able to maintain the temperature. They're not trying to bring it to the level. So the new pledge for 2030 is to reduce the emissions by only 7.5%, whereas 30% is needed for 2 degrees and 55% for 1.5. If you want to reduce the temperature up to 1.5 degrees Celsius, that means you need to reduce the emissions up to 55%. And if you want to reduce up to 22 degrees Celsius, then the emission should reduce up to 30%. This is what the new pledge is saying. Let's see how much far they are doing it and how much they are able to do it. Now, what is net zero emission? Net zero emission is nothing but 50 countries are trying to reduce the temperature, trying to reduce the emissions. That means they are not completely closing the companies or industries. That is, they are trying to reduce the smoke, or sorry, they are trying to reduce the emissions which are released, which are harmful, and they are trying to convert it into uh, very less emission, so that it is not harmful for the environment. So in this net zero emissions, 50 countries have pledged that they will reduce, which is covering half of the global emissions. They are trying to reduce these man-made green emissions. They are pledging to reduce the emissions in such a way that it is not disturbing the climate balance of the earth net climate balance. They have pledged that they, either through natural or artificial way, they will try to reduce the emission. That's what the 50 countries have said. Few of the G20 members have kept the NDC target to put emission on a path to net zero pledge. Let's see how much far they are going to keep this. Global warming, at the end of century, the global warming is estimated to be risen to 2.7 degrees Celsius by 2030. If it is not conditional, unconditional, that is, if they are not implemented, then it will rise to 2.6 degrees Celsius. If they are trying to reduce net zero, that means if they are trying to reduce completely, at least then it will be lower to 2.2 degrees Celsius. They have pledged this in this report 2021. The methane emissions which are released by the fossil fuels and through paddy and through agriculture waste, they are trying to reduce this in the short term so that it will be beneficial. They are trying to reduce this methane emission. In what way they are going to reduce, it is not mentioned. The carbon markets, they have said that it can be only possible when there are clearly defined rules about it and how to do it, how the transaction is possible. If there is not specified about the rules and regulations, then it is very difficult to to propagate this carbon markets. It is difficult to implement this carbon market, and we should have a progress. We should have a track. We should have arrangements to track all this progress, and there should be transparency so that these carbon markets are done in a good manner. Now, what is the current situation? The current situation is that atmospheric carbon dioxide are higher in than 2 times in the last 2 million years. That means after the industrialization period, the carbon emission has increased a lot, and there is no estimate which can say that how much of emission is occurring in 2022, how much of global emissions will happen in 2022. Next one is, sorry, it is 2020, how much of emission has happened in 2020. However, in the pandemic period, the emission was reduced to, it is not 20. However, in the pandemic period, there was a drop of 5.4% period. Sorry, 5.4% in carbon dioxide emission in 2020. And there was only a little drop in global greenhouse gases emission only in the 2020 period. But from 2010 to 2019, there was a growth. They have seen a growth of 1.3% of greenhouse gas emission with and without land use change. The greenhouse gas emission reached a record of 51.5 gigatons of carbon dioxide in 2019. So, what are the initiatives that India has taken to reduce emission? First thing, what we can do is we have a lot of emissions from few automobiles. So, they are trying to switch from Bharat Stage 4 directly to Bharat Stage 6, which will, what are the changes in that? In that, the emissions will reduce, and due to the sulfur dioxide content will be reduced in that, and they are trying to distribute LED bulbs under the Udala scheme. They are trying to make everything solar power, generating electricity through solar and implementing solar and using solar in many things. In this way, they are trying to implement it. Launch of the National Action Plan on Climate Change. Now, let us know more about what is UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. It is Globally Environment Authority. It is just an authority established on 5th June 1972. And on 5th June, we celebrate Environment Day. So, it sets the global environment agenda, promotes sustainable development with the United Nations, and serves as an environment protection authority. That means it is just a report whereby which seeing by which will protect the which will is trying to protect the environment globally. By releasing these kind of reports, people will get awareness how much what are the steps to have to be taken and what measures they can do to prevent these emissions. Now, its headquarters is in Nairobi, Kenya, and the major reports are Emission Gap Report, Adaptation Gap Report, Global Environment Outlook, Frontiers Investment into Healthy Planet, and the major campaigns are Beat Pollution, UN 75, World Environment Day, World for Life. That's all for today, friends. If you like it, please share it with your friends and subscribe. Thank you.